Um, and from all the stuff that Nate sent through, I kind of wanted to see if we could get a flow and the conversation move towards something. And so one of them has to do with the misunderstandings about God and Christianity that exists not just outside of the church with the world, but probably also the Christians themselves. So do you have any ideas about what those misunderstandings are that you're coming across all the time? Maybe from people who don't believe in God, people do believe, and you kind of are asking yourself the question, well, why do I believe what I believe, and how is it that they're seeing it differently? Some misunderstandings that you come across about God, about Christianity, what it means to follow Jesus. Yeah, and how are you even approaching those misunderstandings that you come across? So discuss.
Um, fight. Oh, for me, during school, because it wasn't too long for me. Um, but I had one friend that's at school. He wasn't fully Christian, but he was definitely interested all the stuff.
Yeah.
And so in computing clubs, we was just like time second computer. And he would randomly come up with these questions in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
About like I think one was, what was the big question of why does bad stuff happen to good people? He asked that question. And so obviously our teacher's not paying attention and turns to his friends. And there's some friends that, and it's a like as if they know the answer. And they give this really obscure answer. The other where I guess it just makes him not understanding further. Um and for me, I guess I wouldn't really have an answered order as of this moment in time when I was with him. But it was sort of more of a case of asking him more about why he's interested in that. Um, because I feel like the misunderstanding for him was that he took everything for word in the Bible, when some stuff isn't, I guess, literal meanings. Because I feel like that's where a lot of people also um misunderstand stuff. We take it literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Very good point. That's that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, think when we were talking about the question, yes, they did. And we said to some stuff. One of the big things was the idea of as a cultural Christianity. So simplifying it is we're talking the context of and the American culture growing up. It's kind of everyone behaves a certain way because it's assumed that that's what's accepted. But then there's some misunderstandings that come with that, I guess, as well. Like you should all behave the same way, but then is this who God really is because no one says it is, or is it because I agree that situation? Um, and so then you have questions like, what is like, well, that Brad saying these people, one obviously because of working all to one. I have a lot of students who have some really specific questions they want to ask about faith, about Jesus, about just being in a church building from Monday to Friday, like where these randos, what does Dave actually do? Shout out there again. Shout out to Dave.
Yeah.
Like, because when Dave's in there on Wednesdays doing Devos and he asks the questions and the kids will like front room it, or even the praise of the, like, you can see the brains, like, for the, oh, that's just so bad, that's just so Christian. And I think two ways to think about it. I think you can simplify it and really just make everyone understand like bigger picture. But then you have the question as well. Kids talk trying to understand who they are because they've gone through so much trauma. And it's like you're talking about this God. No, I don't understand what you're talking about. Like I've never experienced this and all that. And having to make sense of that. And I think one thing that has stuck out with me from what Dave as an Amsterdam, I guess what I've tried to do over the years is like the idea of ministering through your presence, just consistently being there, showing up, living the best you can in a Christian path, showing that love of God. And like sometimes a kid will, even when you have those moments and a kid is like both pushing your buttons and you just really want to um,
Yes. You just really want to. This one. But then when you kind of like either turn the cheek or you kind of treat them like as if nothing happened, as in like you forgive them, you do little actions where you do the complete opposite of what they're supposed to do. Um, and I think too, what Stephen is saying, I think yeah, sometimes you can't say anything or you don't have an answer at the moment, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think being a consistent presence is like huge, I think, especially for the kids we work with when it's nice. But don't know who God is, don't have an idea what God is yet, but see the actions and the build up of you continue to expect. So I think it's an old saying, but it's like consistency beats time anytime. And it's the idea of just showing up is huge for a kid.
Yeah.
And huge. Like I got a text for one of our students who graduated this year and like showed me like thank you messages and blah blah blah. But then it's just like, yeah, you mentioned something about like, yeah, like first father figure or something like that. And I'm like, Papa. But like the idea of like being so consistent where they're able to use, you can see their growth and their consistency because they feel that journey. And I think the misunderstanding a lot of the time is because we don't take long enough to go with poly's face to kind of opt out straight away because it's too hard. So I was getting a bit I shot down a bit too early instead of planting our roots and actually go through the seasons because your faith journey is in different seasons. It's not just like happy go lucky. Pedro talked about that NASA experiment they did in Arizona, where they did a dome thing and they planted those trees that shot up real quick. They thought the roots were like so shallow, yeah, and then that point ever. Yeah, it's the slightest thing, and I think that's what cultural Christianity and shallow faith can be. But I think you don't understand God through the ups and downs. You should go the deep brain, and then no one is taught. So the misunderstanding will happen definitely. But if you opt out too early, you get to understand full. That's kind of my.
So how would you define cultural Christianity?
Um, I think cultural Christianity, from my understanding, or at least from my limited knowledge, I would say it's because everyone's doing it. Let's say, I use the American thing because it's kind of the everyone can understand. Like it's when you think of like especially more in these early 2000s, all the Christian music stuff coming out from America and stuff. There's a certain like we all behave a certain way, and Jody's brothers having made rings and stuff. The purity, and then you had the WWJD bracelets. Like it was all like a marketing thing towards kind of like you had to put all a certain thing, but underneath there's kind of all this questions, all this torment, but because you had to behave a certain way, behavioral thing. Yeah. It was this way I love people to just follow it through faith quickly because it was like that dirt span. Like I would say cultural Christianity is opting out when it gets too hard and then you're just doing it because it's a nice result. It looks good. It's pretty and everyone's doing it, so you find it too hard to kind of like ask the deeper questions because no one is. Yeah. So cultural Christianity, I guess, is just going along with the flow rather than like turn around and asking, why do we actually? So like not asking the question why, just going with the flow. And I guess a practical example would be, well, just like even like at youth or with students that I work with, just giving them just cookie cutter question answers without even going deeper. Or if you don't have an answer, like questioning like boys go reset to good people. Um, some people are afraid to say I don't know, and let's investigate. And I think when those moments come up, that's when you can either be a cultural Christian and just um, give some airy fair answer and move on, try to shut down a conversation or go deeper. And that's what discipleship and a friendship it's like ask the questions, going deeper. If you don't know, let's go on the journey. Let's investigate. At least cultural Christianity doesn't invite it to help to say. Thank you.
What about you? Misunderstanding, and maybe give a definition of what you think culture Christianity is. The good thing about this is that we're kind of separated by at least 10 years, which means that where you grew up with, it's what we grew up with. So I'd love to also hear your thoughts on we culture Christianity. But let's talk misunderstanding, what misunderstandings you come across, what misunderstand. Or you can actually just comment on the culture of Christianity part if you want to. Yeah, that's up to you.
But we'll come back to that at the end. I think some of the misunderstandings I have, like in work or in uni, whatever, when I tell people, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm Christian. Sorry, I can't come into work right now. I'm at church. And then you get into that place and they're like, oh, so you're a Christian. So like I had one of my coworkers be like, oh, do you pray to Mary or something? I was like, hold up, what? Oh, that's Catholic. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, no. And they're like, oh, so like, what do you believe? And I'm like, trying to explain it to them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that can create, like all the different denominations of Christianity, that can create a lot of confusion. Not only like for us as Christians, right? Because you're like, oh, well, you do it this way, I do it that way, right? What is right? Like, does it even matter?
Yeah.
But also like people looking inwards, like what I was saying about my coworker, she's now like super confused because she's like, oh, well, like, what, what are you even talking about? Like, what is there? What do you guys even do? Like, why are there all these different churches and stuff? And I feel like that can create a lot of confusion. But also, someone much wiser than me, much older as well. He was saying like, all right, I'll use coffee as an analogy. I know Nathan liked coffee. Bumped into him at the coffee shop yesterday just purely by accident. That was crazy.
Coffee Bogan.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Very much so.
he was saying like, let's say I like vanilla lattes, right? And Nathan over here likes just normal black coffee, right? No sugar, no nothing. I'm not going to try and convince him that vanilla latte is the way to go. If he likes it that way and that's how he gets his hit of caffeine or whatever, then that's cool. Right? Stephen over here might like something else. But as long as like we're all drinking the coffee, right? And like, let's say Jesus is the coffee, but like we're all having that relationship. Just because we do it a bit different, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Like, yeah. So that's, I guess, one way of looking at it. Yeah.
One of the things that's really intriguing for me is this question on why God will allow bad things to happen. Do you think you have an answer now for this kind of thing, or how are you thinking about that question? Yeah, we got the. You can start with in the beginning.
No, I mean, it's still such a hard question to answer, especially now there's still, even after like we've been just sort of doing a little bit of research. So it's so tough because one way you can put it as in bad stuff happens to people because it's a natural thing that just happens in this world. You can look at the animal book rated for why some animals die. Yeah, that's just the thing of the animal kingdom. As you got prey and predator. But if you're thinking it in a way, like us humans living in this world, it was in like heaven. It's not perfect all year round. Um, and sometimes you're in a season where things just go horribly wrong all the time. Um, and say someone end up dying, just a very sad thing, just happened like that. And you're always asking the question, why? Why did that happen? Why this person? Maybe there was a reason for this person to die. As sad as it was. And this is where I feel like an answer for my friend would put him off of this sort of relationship, saying that there's a reason for this person, to die. Because him not having that relationship with Jesus from a young age, like some of us growing up in a Christian home, he would take it, I guess, just very negatively. Even he would struggle to see the positive side in it. Yeah, so bad things happen to people. There's could be a reason why, whether that's a reason for you, or the reason why you're still here, whether that's a wake up call for someone else. But for me, I personally feel like there's always a reason for why someone dies. Yeah, that's sort of my outlook on that question. Right now, anyway. There's still plenty of time for me of researchers. Yeah.
Do you think that, and anyone else can answer this, do you think that people ask the question why a person died because it happens to be close to them, or because they're actually doing, like, they don't want to deal with that pain? Because
I feel like the question sort of comes up just out of, I guess, a personal interest. Whether something's happened to them or not, it's a big question or anyone that's interested. Like it's a question that's either able to turn someone off of having a relationship with Jesus, or I guess just put them fully onto it in a way.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like that it's a thing where someone has to have some sort of level of interest for themselves to ask that question, or even just ask but get curious about it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Where you guys? Why do you think bad things happen to people?
In the bending. I'll take your right back there. So, like, for those of you who don't know, in the Beninging, there was this tree. Adam and Eve were told by God, "Hey, don't eat from the tree, knowledge of good and evil." Right?
Yeah.
And Eve was like, "Hey, yo, this snake talked to me. Let's do it. Let's see what it's like." That's so new. And it just basically everything went downhill from there. Right? So, cut the story short, we now live in a very broken world. Right? And none of this, like, yes, God's in control of everything. God has all of this in his hands, right? But this wasn't his plan. And that's why, like, Jesus came, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. All I know about your audience is it's your mom. No, we're just so, like, the general, like, backstory or knowledge. But, like, good. Go there. Okay. So, anyway, Jesus had to come. We'll leave that. Maybe we'll talk about it later. I don't know. But the world's broken, right? And so all this disease, sickness, people do terrible, wicked things all the time. And that, like, because of that, a lot of bad things happen, right? It's just like the human condition. Like, when broken people are going to do terrible things. We're going to lie, and cheat, and steal, and kill. But as terrible as that sounds, because that is pretty miserable. I mean, you see it on the news all the time. You're like, oh my goodness, like, what is going on in the world? It doesn't mean that God can't use that, and God can't, like you were saying, like, things happen for a reason. Like, God, who was the guy back in the day, a long time back in the day, that was killing Christians, and then God showed up. Saul, yeah, it was like, bang, you're blind now. By the way, you're gonna, like, come help me do all this crazy stuff. Like, he was literally killing God's people. He was like, yeah, and God's, as broken as Saul was, as terrible and wicked as he was, God still managed to use him for his plan and for the good. So I feel like, yeah, people dying or people mistreating others or these terrible things happening, God can still use it to further, like, his kingdom in this world. So yeah.
Yeah, girl, man. I'll just say one thing. I remember a story of a young girl, or a say, I don't know, the head of the shade. It's like, oh,
We'll talk about genders.
this young child, had, but she had cancer. Jimmy. Yeah, no, so this child had cancer. And it was really rough. But this child, but not just this child, but family as well. And his family was Christian. Child got cancer. We're still at having cancer. We still had cancer at the time. But she went into an interview with this man, and this interview was basically about why she's so happy or joyful in his cancer. And what she basically said was that she's happy to take this cancer hit and someone else doesn't have to.
Interesting.
And this reporter, and going in tears and asked her why, why? And she just said no. I'm pretty sure she said it was because it's what Jesus did for us, and we think it's a good reason for why some bad things happen for good people like Christians. People like us might actually be able to understand that a bit more to where someone who doesn't have to deal with it. Because on a certain level, yeah, we do understand a bit more guys, why things happen. Or we're able to make sense of it a bit easier. That's right. And yeah. So yeah, I feel like that's another reason why good things happen to bad things happen to good people. Some people.
Yeah, that was good. That kind of just made me think of the line in Matthew, Jesus saying how, you know, before he ascended, after raising from the dead, oh, tell me about how it goes into the word, make souls. I said, make do greater miracles than this, but I said, you like, they'll hate you as much because they hated me. So I did it once. It's going to be all sunshine and rainbows, which is doom and gloom. You could look at it as that, but I think that's a great perspective you probably got. Like, if anyone would understand suffering, it's him. And if anyone would probably get an idea of what suffering is Christian. So people could be, when he points us into that idea, or he following the other, or if it's, was that a wish we have the these, but they run things go bad. Yeah, sometimes you won't actually have an answer as to why it goes bad. But I think we have we have an inside knowledge of learning that it's all worth it. It's pretty good. It's here to be basic to this where I'll be eventually. I think hopefully, I think as our church anyway, and as Dave has been teaching over the years, is that like the Christian life is not, become a Christian. You kind of live out this life and then you go into somewhere and happier and better and nice. Sunshine and rainbows. Yeah, it's the idea of it. All right, you're here, you're a steward. Steward what I've given you, prepare the way. I'm about to come back. So your job here is to actually, I guess, get back to the original design. And as you said, our job is to bring back order. Our job is to bring back things that are chaotic. The analogy that I keep thinking about is the analogy of like the mandate I was given to Adam at the beginning, is that to turn the wild, crazy, like shrubbery and stuff those around, make it a gut, make it beer from me. So as the image bearers, I guess our job is to kind of, wherever we go, right, that knowledge being Tahazo Tet Spirit is actually bring flourishing, bring house, bring neon. But we do live in a broken world, and things happen, and things will happen to us, things will happen to other people that we loved and care about. And as maybe annoying as it might be, sometimes you don't have an answer, and that's actually that's okay. But opting out early of trying to find out that answer is no, I would say probably not a yeah. You can't by that opting out is like not us be brushing up. Self-medicating, but just avoid it. I think the best part of the British UJ is when things come up here and you go deep to us. Pick up Job's story. Bro, just sitting, just chilling. His animals get killed. His children gets killed. He loses everything. His mates come and die because surely must have something. Yeah. And then he keeps, cursing the day he was born. He keeps complaining them. God goes in this virtual tour. He shows him. He don't know how to that. Like, this is a spec. Like, everyone, if you don't, and that image of Earth in this spectral or get the galaxy, with nothing in comparison to what he's doing. And that sounds like, okay, look down. But it's true. The story's not about it. The story's about God's coming back. Yeah. to bring back the original design. And I think as a Christian, I think we have to keep that perspective, because I think we got too caught up in it's all about me. As a journey of like discovery, there's always whenever people ask questions on that thing, it's like, happily gonna fit me. Like, what can I get out of this? Yeah, what's gonna help me? And that might sound harsh, like what did a spell be? But I would spell a lot that is it could be. But I think it's, if you have that perspective, we always try to have that perspective for how's that story newly move forward by this moment, but this situation, I can actually allow the kingdom to go in and flourish and bring people back. That's why he's delaying this whole coming back situation, as he wants everyone. He wants everyone in on the journey, but keep like on. It's all about ethos. It's not real. Get out, guys. I think that's a perspective that's hard to get to, but when you're in the midst of suffering, like one Monday, we're praying, like, because on that at church we have people just pray to do best and stuff, and we're trying different things, and it's like it's a real like things happen is suck. Yeah. But yeah, it's like beginning of the whole story is God's relationship trying to bring us back in it. And how we can bring that design back again. But he's got all the time, yeah. So I think keep in perspective that yes, stuff happens to good people, stuff happens to bad people. It says in the scripture as well. Like it rains on the wicked and righteous. Things happen to guys. You don't know, like Joe, you won't know this full story. But at least as you grow older in your faith and you'll have a better understanding. But it's okay to not like, but don't let your best get what, because that's where you find the richness easier. But that's good. Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Good comment. Yeah, thanks for your answers and thoughts. One of the things that I think about with regards to this question, especially as it relates to suffering, pain, cultural Christianity, and things like that, is, for example, your friend asking you that question. That's actually a deeply Christian question, and we underestimate. And I don't. People take it for granted, but that's because the history is not being taught right in schools. They're not necessarily taught, well, why do we think that people's lives matter? That's a deeply Christian question. So there's a historian by the name of Tim Holland who did pretty much a survey of history and looked at how much we in Australia, in England, in US, the majority of Europe is actually influenced by Christian thought. The reason why we have a welfare system is because we think people matter and that they have they have rights that it doesn't matter whether or not they're young or small, young, small, old, what stage of life they're at. They have rights that we can't just impinge on just because. And so when he writes his book, he shows a lot of what's happening throughout history with culture around Christianity and how the Christians are distinctly different. So, for example, the Romans, in Roman culture, it was very much part of their culture too. If a father had a child and that child happened to be a girl, it was very much within their right for them to go throw her out. Doesn't matter how young she is, just throw her out into the streets. The dogs will eat her. And that was fine for Roman culture. I mean, we think that the hairs on the back of my head are standing up just thinking about that. I'm a dad, and it's like, who the heck do you think? But that's a Christian response. If whoever hears this, and think that's horrible and they don't believe in Jesus, that's a Christian response because we've been conditioned to actually think specifically Christian about human life, which is, we make fun about in the beginning, but literally you've got to see how that's a subscription to Christian thinking. And the reason why I agree with one of us here said that we kind of probably understand suffering better. Not that we suffer more, because it doesn't actually matter. Just because we're Christians doesn't mean we've got we can wave a magic wand and kind of go, therefore suffering will now end. Or see, so we have the answer. We still suffer probably in some places way more. And to this day are still the most persecuted people group around the world, and increasing. We just don't hear about it in the news. But the reason why I think we understand that is because we're connected to not only the story of the beginning, we know, and we have an explanation that makes sense with regards to suffering of all kinds. Though it doesn't explain why all suffering happens, it does explain that suffering is real, and it explains at least the origin. You can trace it back. But our story, the story of Jesus, is that the worst thing happened to the best person. That's our story. And God allowed that to happen. That's insane. So that breaks quite a few things, right? It breaks quite a few, because then we have to get rid of and not subscribe to this culture of Christianity where if God exists, then he must da 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 da. If God doesn't da 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 da, whatever the list is, then he doesn't exist, or he's not good, or he's not this. Well, no, that's by definition who God is he's not you. We grow up with these notions of, there's a famous preacher who shall not be named, who says, "Get ready to go." Hey,
People are on Google waiting.
yeah, googling him. You could probably find out. I don't need to a lot of his teaching, but this was a really cool idea that he had. He said, "You got to get people grow up with this slot machine Jesus. You just go hit you're gonna go hit the jackpot if you go and pray, and then when you don't get your prayers answered, you don't hit the jackpot. Oh, God must not love me, or whatever. Get rid of boyfriend Jesus. Just know your boyfriend. That's true though. Oh my gosh, Jesus is my love. Yeah, okay, he loves you.
What a concept.
Yeah, so boyfriend Jesus, slot machine Jesus, my teddy bear Jesus who comforts me all the time. Well, no, he's gonna tell you off. So, coffee Jesus or coffee Jesus. I get roasted, bro. Like in coffee bean. Um, you know, coffee Jesus or comfort Jesus, and he actually does name a few other things, and he says, we subscribe to these versions of God that are not real, as non-Christians, and then we place those expectations on what Christians are supposed to be. You're supposed to be like a boyfriend or a slot machine or just be nice to me all the time. Well, no, that's not even who Jesus is. That's not who he portrays God to be. And so culturally, because the outcome of Christianity being the dominant way of thinking in our culture today means that it's actually been really good. Like, we've got welfare systems, we look after the poor. The government grants programs so that people who are disadvantaged in many different ways can actually try and, keep up with the rest of life. The rest of the world thinks if you're weak, you need to go and die in the gutter. Might makes right is the way of the world. Whereas Jesus said, no, 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 no. My strength is going to be used to try and serve and save you. This is different. So that's radically different. And then for the Christian as well, it's not agreeing with what the world expects of you just because that's going to make them feel more comfortable. I'm sorry, but Jesus is here to offend, not to go along with what we go with. Because we need to be saved, and our way has got the world where it's at. Right? You said it, right? That it's a consequence of sin. So, want to talk about, and transition, it's along the same topic, but the idea of what makes a human, and then whether or not gender roles are still a thing, whether that's social construction. But also, if you can make a comment about how that connects with the whole autonomy thing and individualism, because I think you pointed something important, which is that it's not a story about us; it's a story about God and how God. But we want the story to be about us. Now, culturally, if you're not a believer, that's the default. But as a Christian, it can't be the default. Which means then that we've got to think about, well, how does the Bible define a person, an individual, human rights, dignity, and then what does that mean about autonomy, submitting to the will of God? Yeah, what are your thoughts, Bill Preaching? Someone, Alandore.
He clarified the first party.
The first part has to do with the origin, our origins, and what the Bible says about who we are as human. And then you can make comment on gender roles. I think you've looked that up in your own thing. It's like, is there still such thing? As well as what that means about whether or not we owe ourselves. So that's individuality. We owe ourselves to make decisions that are best for us, or not.
Yeah, I guess you go back to your question. What is human? I guess where we human. I guess
Because evolution will tell you can't bonkers, right?
that's
Think that out.
you will. I don't know. It's a funny thought because there's a lot of people, a lot of Christians. One that I know of, Stuart Nettle.
Hey, is our full name?
That his name?
His first name is good. Coming for you, Stewie.
He sort of just call him out. Yeah, he's a great pastor, good speaker, but he's one man that I know of that like is interested in evolution.
Yeah.
I don't know there's reasonings behind it, but that's just an example. And I know of some, but I feel like there's
Is that it doesn't make them unchristian?
no, it's not.
But yeah.
No, it doesn't at all. But we can go back to Adam and Eve. That's sort of the human that we know making mistakes,
Yeah.
doing good things, doing bad things, all the way up until now. But there's also the human that we know of, Jesus, he did great things at the cost of himself. And I guess a lot of people nowadays are like Adam and Eve, doing good things, you have things, done for more self and others. But I guess the human that I want to be, that Christian want to be, that we should want to, is the human like Jesus, where he's serving others. Because even back in the Bible days when he was alive, he was always serving people that were weaker than everyone else. Even though he was in a crowd amongst people that wanted help, that wanted him, he would always seek out the people that were the lowest, that were the weakest, slowest. Well, yeah. But I feel like everyone nowadays starts off as a human, like adding any, always making mistakes. That's the way I feel like we start. Yeah, because that's just the natural. But evolution would call us into growing and then changing it, being more like Jesus. So I think it's
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, interesting.
from my knowledge.
No. Like, this is because it's a very curious question and something that I can chew on for a long time. What does it mean to be human? Was it this author?
Yeah.
We define your gender roles. Yeah, I think going to like what Steven was saying, I think definitely like there is those two ways of being human that are very there's a way of living as Jesus did, but like until Gen to people will be sad to be late was the sacrificial lamb for us. Starting new covenants. I think, and it's a very high standing tool. It's we all always fall short. We always never gonna fulfill that standard, and thankfully we don't have to because Jesus did update. And that he does, he sees Jesus instead, which is full. But then, yeah, we fluctuate between falling, giving into, I guess you'd say, the fluctuation of slow sort. This is such a huge change. I'm always curious, and I've always been curious about the soul, people, and and correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, the genre of that part of the book, I don't think it's poetic enough, but like I just love the step process of how Eve like knew that all that to be from that, but then engaged the conversation. Didn't really have to with the girl spit done free. Then accepted that knowledge. Oh, maybe.
Yeah, good point.
So she didn't have to. She didn't have to engage with the conversation with the serpent, and then went from there to kind of, oh yeah, just a little amazing math. So what are we doing? Okay, a little nibble, yeah. But then because I guess the soul is it's a gender role situation is like, but then I know it was like just poetic, like kick kind of like trying to like stab you like the face, poetic thing. The Nanch voice talks about anatomy system. I'm like, "Bruh, seriously, the fate of humanity." You watch this happen the whole time, from what it assumes from the gap in between the verses, that he was there, seeing this conversation, having seen her engage you, but not take control and taking child to kind of, oh, said not to do this. Does like that old she can you live for eternity, like treat a cartoon tired, whatever. So that's always been curious, and I think to fall into, I guess it's like there are those two options to live like Jesus, then so the graphic work, which is eternity, or to kind of allow to engage in those conversations or engage in conversations with these other actually, to the lack of a better word, it's above our pay grade. Like things where I'll try and fix this situation myself, or try and solve this injustice by doing another injustice thing to solve it. Whereas in reality, it's like, hey, well, this is your mandate to kind of bring flourishing, to bring order out of chaos, into allow him to work for us nights. It's eggshells to walk on, but it's like, it's, I think, that's a really stark contrast, though. A stark kind of picture of what I guess our role is in this world as both humans and as men and religious. It's like you've been given something to, you've been given mandate, you've been given the story. This is what you're even mandated to do. As dies, it's like to root chaos. You bring order out of chaos. Your body gets out. And so that you want this. I think like there was so perfect situation that God ordered for us to game, but somewhere along the way we decided to ask the question, and not I can abide it, but how can I do this better? How can I benefit from it rather than how can I benefit from it? I think that's where the switch potentially is happening. Is that instead of like White's was saying, so instead of how can I help move the story forward, it's like how can I benefit from it? And there, and I think that's such a huge switch. No matter if you're a female and meh, there are gender roles or the situation you're in now, where there's multiple situations, you're trying to is it all, is it warrior in some way? It's that it's always, it's like, oh, how can you can never satisfy the human need about what not was with God. It's black and white, it's this or not. Well, and I think if you go down that road of like it's all about yeah, you're gonna have multiple options because you never done any sense. Yeah. Whereas when you go focus on, you have that certainty of now do what you want, God, and it's pretty fit. This or that was like, and that actually simplifies your focus, simplifies your life journey so much more. And it helps you to understand what it actually means that you're human, like a better version and do my best to watch it still. I try to live it, try to work out about, and that's the other fee. It's kind of like you look at the education system, like it in Scandinavia versus the rest of the world. That's why it's kind of known nowadays. They've got 3 options or 4 options as soon as they're still. It's either you're going to trade, you're going to be defense force, or you've got like higher education. Well, like there's limited options. Like yeah, as we like with the with the training we've had also, it's like down to choices. You don't get 2. Don't need multiple. You've got 2 options. You choose. You don't have to choose from fill yourself with anxiety and do all this thing. Yeah, whatever. You won't get 2 choices. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think the world is kind of like it's all about me, and then say, "Oh, look at all my feelings. Let's go with all the different options I want to go." If a lot is like parent talk and parent, but this is making the movie for a peak coming in, bring back healing restoration movie. Well, yeah, so and I think to kind of big picture it without offending anyone, I think it's like, yeah, those are 2 options. I think when you choose yourself, you got multiple options because you never be satisfied. You choose God, it's like one or the other option. Those are the only choices you have. What about big bills? This is we, and I think, yeah, there we go. Yes, well, let's get fit.
Can I say something? So what's interesting, I don't know how much you noticed that, but there's a little weird dynamic there where I'm assuming make this come is that there were some places that you wanted to go that you didn't. And I talk about this with people a lot with regards to this thing I call self-censorship. Like you stop yourself from saying something before saying it. And partly because you don't want to offend anyone. But the other side of it is also that um, Christianity is no longer part of the norm. It's unaccepted. The, 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 the punching back generally of the West is Christianity for our culture. Like the punch bag of Christianity, and you think about religion, ways of thoughts and things like that. Christianity is easy target. Why? Because it's in our nature to forgive. The world knows that, not to forgive, so they'll punch you 50 million times. But on the flip side, when you're talking about this, I think there has to be something to us with regards to believing what the Bible says. While Genesis can be interpreted less literally for every single thing. Like, did the world get created in 7 days, or is it what evolution tells us? Watching the is it like that's not what the Bible is interested to actually answer. But what it does say clearly, and God saw everything that He made, and He saw that it was good. So we've got to believe that as Christian, male and female, He created, and it was good. Who created every planet, the world, and He saw it, and it was good. And once God had finished, he rested because He completed. There was nothing else to add to it. We've got to actually have I think it's not necessarily about making a comment about what other people are believing and not believing, but we've already got our narrative. We know that what God created was good, and male and female, He created it. And it might just not even be how the world said male and female and what we think about when we think about it today, engaging with people that are not Christian necessarily. But the Bible is at least clear with regards to how it means it. And that's the story we've got to engage with. And not actually assume that just because we do that, we're going to offend people. They might help offend it. We just need to know what we think. So yeah, I see that, some self-censorship happens. It happens to me. I'll stop myself from saying something just because I think I might end up offending somebody. But that's not necessarily the point. Some people are actually truly, genuinely true. And we do them a disservice by not being clear. That's a me thing. I do that because I know what that feels like. And I was like, I spotted that because I do it all the time. I'm like, I want to make you feel good, put you back. But what's interesting is that I would say people around your age are not doing that then. They're looking for
Just relate.
just you wait. It feels like they're looking for truth and they're looking for some kind of stability. And to kind of know, like, what's this all about? Like, give me an answer. By asking why bad things happen to people more my generation just use that as a moral card of, this is why I don't believe in God. Whereas it seems younger, at least youth age, they kind of go, no, just tell me because none of the other crap makes sense. Anyway, sorry, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah. Before I say anything, I just want to say sorry. This is just my opinion. I'm taking my shoes off and walking on these eggshells. Yeah. So I think God is incredibly like he's obviously smart. We don't even understand how intelligent he is. Like he created everything. And I feel like in this world, he put some little Easter eggs, some little like he has to have a sense of humor, right? Like this will make sense. I know it sounds like I'm going off track right now, but did you know that male seahorses are the ones that get pregnant? That's actually crazy. And like clownfish can like change their gender, and I'm sure there's heaps of other animals that can do like these crazy things for themselves.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Nemo.
Yeah, or you met the video on Nemo. Nemo's anyway. The whole thing. What's it when his wife or like girlfriend fish, whatever, that's close to be a lot of stuff. Rest in peace. It was all like a hallucination,
And Nemo is the Bambi.
but actually what was that fish's name that dies?
Marlin.
Marlin.
Or the
Marlin's the dad. The wife, I don't know.
No, but here's the trippy bit. Maybe that other fish was the male fish, and then the female fish turned into the dad that is Marlin, and then looks up. I don't know. To be thought of easy. It was great.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it was also someone like on YouTube. It was like a 50-minute video. I watched at 2 a.m. So I could sure. Yeah.
no, we believe.
Anyway, let's bring it back to what I was saying before. Like I feel like God puts all these things in the world, like all these crazy things. Like, see, I could have done it this way, but the way He created humans is He made Adam and Eve. He could have just made human full stop, like one entity. It can do it all. But I feel like He made male and female for a reason. Like there has to be roles behind why He did it, because He doesn't do anything just like, oh, because this is funny. Like I'll just, like everything He does has purpose, right?
Yeah.
And there's a reason behind it. So I feel like I'm not going to get into the roles because I'm 21. I don't know anything, right? I know nothing. Like you probably just figured out for me. So okay. But there has to be a reason why He does it, right?
Yeah.
I'll
Absolutely.
just leave it at that.
No, that's good. Yeah.
No, I'd actually like that statement of like he created Adam and Eve, not human.
Yeah.
Like there was two genders, two roles for a reason. I know from my experience, my father, he's recently, for a while back, my parents separated, and so he's found a girlfriend, and they've been together for a while, and they fight often, or they have arguments, and so me talking to him about this a while back to like sort of clearly make sense of things. He talks and he's like, yeah, well, that for us, that's us sort of fearing the air. We're fine to get that. The way she acts with some things and how she understands some things is a lot different to how my father understands things. So whereas he sees like a bunch of plants just all over the place is considered to him as a mess. Just a mess. A bunch of pot plants all over the place, just a mess.
Yeah.
Whereas his girlfriend sees it as this is my beautiful plants that I'm gonna water later.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that the two roles aren't necessarily separated by actions, but more so by all the thoughts. We know that men apparently their brains develop a lot slower than women's. I think I read somewhere. I mean,
For some. No.
yes. No, it makes me think that men and women aren't just different by what roles they play, but necessarily how their brains think. That can then determine what roles they play in a family's life, or a job's life, or friendships. So yeah, that experience knowing about how my father thinks and how his girlfriend thinks has actually helped me understand, I guess, for myself how to grow a bit more in what roles that I potentially am meant to be in. future. And how I get not that I will be thinking that exact same way, but how other think.
Sure. What do you think about this? All right, probably this thought out. So just in regards to what we're talking about here, one of the ways that I try to frame the conversation for myself has to do with the phrase "the gift of limitations," and that's a Brene Brown phrase. You don't have to know who she is. It's just for the people listening. Go to this, listen to. But the how she uses it and how I think about it are different. Um, the way I think about it has to do with I connect it um, to another phrase by this other preacher who talks about how true freedom isn't actually doing every single thing you want to do whenever you want to do it, however you do. That is actually true freedom is doing exactly what you're designed to do. And so when you think about that for us, and when you read the Bible, the story account of men and women being created, one of the things that God, in creating Eve, he said it's not good for man to be alone. So he's intentionally placed a limitation around what is humanity at that point. One person is intentionally created Adam with a limitation. It's not a fault. It's just a limitation, you know. And then he creates for him suitable companion, helper.
It's not a problem how he thinks my way.
Not at all. So God creates that limitation, and so Adam, um, but even after he creates Eve as well, it's not that Adam will become better, and this is where it gets a little bit like because the woman was created last, it becomes she's like uh, the pinnacle of creation, therefore she's better than man. Like two people can argue about that all day, every day. It's not about pitting agendas against each other. It's really about going, well, God clearly created Eve to be Eve, Adam to be Adam. And the gift in that is that Adam and us as men, we are at our best in glorifying God when we submit to God's idea what we might be all. Now, sometimes society plays a part in trying to work out how that's going to be useful. Fair enough. Different thoughts at different time, different society, different culture. Okay, whatever. People play different parts. But also in the same vein, it also means that Eve is at her best when she's not trying to be Adam. And so that's the way I've kind of thought about it, is that there is a gift in that limitation because I don't, and we talked about this whole choice thing. If I can be an antelope as well as an elephant, as well as a freaking, have you ever played the game with each other? You ask each other, if you could have any super,
Oh, yeah.
you just stand there, you go, yeah, super strength. But then you go, oh, dang it, I missed out on the, infinite belly, so I could eat all the food. You know what I mean? Like, like, so that's the problem and the paradox of choice. Whereas God was like, no, that's not going to be when intention created you with limitations. So what do you think about those thoughts with regards to that? Because where we came from there is Adam and Eve were like, we're just going to do it. I'll be God, but I'm never. And then they entertained conversion. What are your thoughts about that?
Is backing away from the light.
Yeah, let's get you more eggshells to work. Freedom's dangerous.
Oh,
Yes.
can you expand that?
Going in the same line that you're thinking with, you just even look at it in the sense of like, let's say eating out. Eating whatever you want, take yours. Disciplining yourself to eat something. So yeah, you're sleep, to go to the gym, having structured, like the military, whatever you want to say.
Free.
Uh,
Free.
you can see a distinct, huge life difference. Like even go to the story of Daniel and his mates, like when they first went about like liberating themselves to just eating veggies and water or whatever it is, like basic, the Daniel fast is become to. known in 90s circles is very limiting, but they were healthy. They didn't get all the other stuff and kind of like you mess up their whole body and then you mess up the whole system. And so, yeah, freedom is such a scary thing to have because it can run off and can actually really, if you think about it physically, it can ruin your body. Eat too many sugars, eat too many oils, eat all sorts of stuff. Your body's going to react to it. You'll shut down your organs like diabetes epidemic and obesity epidemic. If you don't limit yourself, there can be consequences. But on the flip side, there are also going to be consequences if you just and people are going to do well. And I think, in the sense of, guess talking about freedom, talking about what was it? Just don't know. Sorry.
Freedom versus restriction, limitation.
Yes. You can just look at it in the sense of, well, it goes back to the autonomy thing or flows into the autonomy thing is that I think when we decide as a human, fully human, working in this world, when we decide to define what freedom is, or decide to define what you think it is, right? It's always going to be us. It's always going to have some sort of consequence that something else is when you get hurt or where you meet. But I think on the context of like, yeah, when people offend you or people do the wrong thing towards you, you'll get back. Or you're going to do some sort of passive aggressive way. Or you do something to kind of hurt the individual, whereas God, Jesus' teaching is to, no, just like, did it like, if they ask you to walk on them, well, to, like, if give them the shirt off your back, like, do go above and beyond and show them His love and show them grace and mercy that's given to you every morning. And that totally flips the script. It goes against what the narrative is. It's totally destroys everything, but it limits you. It actually stops you from actually being needy. Yeah, it stops you from being so douche on actually making a mockery of his skin, making a mockery of the family, making a mockery of the name. Yeah. And in some ways, probably keeping people further away from 50 spotty or because you're like vodka or these sticks, like talked about in church a few times. My dad's preaching about it. It's like, it's the certain levers and privileges that you have as a guy, as a male living in the West. There's certain levers that you privileges you can pull on, but do you choose to pull on those things or do you choose to actually money? So yeah, you do what going into you there. Yeah. And yeah, freedom's great, sure, like exploring the wild, the adventure and stuff. But if you keep going, you're gonna have your food. I mean, like just go forever. You're gonna die eventually. Yep. And that's freedom. Yeah, freedom's great, but you have to have limits. Yep. Limits are actually so helpful. Like you think about people who do martial arts, people who do any sort of thing. There's limits. There's a reason why you go up slowly through the ranks, break it. Like yeah, fighting in someone just have years of experience. Or anyways, I'm Muay Thai for so long enough. Being kicked that leg, it's like kicking a rock. It's like it's so true. Yeah, and for that person to get into that level, they had to slowly. That reaches out my oh now this is the next level of limits that you are allowed to step into. Yeah. So I think if it's not used well, freedom is dangerous. If it's not used within the right context, and be it the thing that comes to mind is sex. Not used in the right context and in the right limitation. It's hurt, it's gonna destroy, yeah, physically, emotionally, mentally, and someone's gonna get that. Yeah, it's not you, like, context. Like, when Matt was talking about, like, sea horses and stuff, there's a reason for everything. And I think it's like God didn't have to create marriage, didn't have to create sex in that context. There's a reason why I created it like that. Yeah. And there's a limit why it's supposed to be in that context because in that context it flourishes. Yeah. Or when it's outside of life, yeah. Like we work in also one you see the fruits of that freedom that you want. Having so that's a marriage or having that sort of mindset where it's all that self gratification. Yeah. Um So I think, yeah, freedom is dangerous. Limiting it within the confines of what God said, what His purpose is for some way. You could think about it as a marriage sex, or you can think about it like that, or say, oh, great, I didn't want to go. And yeah, oh no. I think, yeah, it's that selfish mindset versus like the other stuff. So it is, that's for me what prosperity and creating the dangers in that sense. So if you're limited, it's great. But if you want to run wild and go crazy, yeah, but it will be fun to be is out there with half. Yeah, the retrace is yeah.
Um, yeah, talking about boundaries, limitations. There's a thought. What if you were running a race? It doesn't matter what kind of race. So it'd be like 100 meters, 400. I don't. Doesn't matter. But imagine running a race. You can see the finish line, but you can't see the lanes. Can't see the lines where you're meant to run. You could be running to the finish line, but you swerve off to the left, hit the outside, swerve to the right, the outside, but you still end up at the finish line. Some. Um. So I thought, think about that when you're sort of going to light that limitation to boundaries and have freedom, but no limitation with boundaries. Um, eventually I guess you get to where you're going or need to be gone or get to OSEP. Is sort of playing for you, but it's sort of making it harder for yourself in a way without having those lines to run in, those boundaries. Um, it's sort of like a fuck, not thinking. It's it's just a way of living that's I guess seems a bit more difficult than having like the limitations. Because like I mean, you go to school and you do one class, bell rings, you go to the next class, bell rings, you go to the next class. Without those limitations of how long the class is going to go for, you're gonna sit in that class forever. You're gonna sit in that spot for a long time. Uh, feel like it's with your life that if you don't know where your limitations are, is I feel like you're just gonna sit in that spot for too long. Not knowing how to grow or how to stretch yourself. One thing we're doing at our Bible study, we go to a prayer night in the hopes of figuring out what our next steps are. And so in that we're sort of wanting to stretch ourselves a little bit and grow in some areas. But for that to happen, I feel like we sort of have to find where our limitations are, where our strengths are, and our weaknesses are.
Yeah.
To sort of figure out how can we grow our strengths and sort of grow our weaknesses without, I guess, going into a place that isn't what we're meant to be doing.
Yeah.
That is like a place where we're not meant to be running in someone else's lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like in saying that, that's very difficult to do.
Yep.
It seems a lot easier to do when just saying it, but thinking about it, it seems very difficult to actually figure out where you're meant to go. So, because we've been going to these prayer nights for a while now, and we're still trying to figure out what we want to do next. We have ideas, but we're still trying to figure out what's the right move. Yeah, and doing that without any help or and prayer, asking God, go ahead, or seeking out different things, staring and saying, like, if we're not trying to stretch ourselves, grow ourselves within these limitations, it's gonna make it a bit if we're trying to stretch ourselves in so many other areas, so many other lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's where I think limitations in that be. So
Step just so we in here, Mark. Like bring the beans. Beans.
Oh, what should I say? Oh, yeah. So in the Bible, pretty good book. You should read it.
Yeah.
Everyone listening, you should read it. Um, we all know about the 10 Commandments, right? Those are like literally set in stone.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, they are.
It's like God put those limits and those rules on us to protect us, right?
Yeah.
Like, do not kill. Oh, so someone's not going to kill me. I'm not going to kill that. We're all going to like live together. We're going to chill, right? All these rules. And when you don't obey them, it's not like, I mean, in some scenarios, you're like, oh no, I can just do what I want. Yeah, this is awesome. But also, like, it's so much easier to get hurt or to hurt another person. Like, if you look at King David, right? Literally a man after God's own heart, like the man, the guy, other than Jesus. These are his, like, he, for almost his whole life, right? He was like doing good, exactly how God wanted him to live, following his commandments. And then one day he's chilling in his palace and he looks out over the city. He's like, oh, that's a nice lady over there having a bath on her roof. And then like these other thoughts and like not doing as God wants, like obviously sinning and that lust, he was like, oh, found out that lady's married. Oh, just like the, you get rid of her husband, get rid of her lies. Adios, mate. Hey. And like, these terrible thoughts that like just ended up causing so much hurt and pain. And like God ended up like punishing him for that. Like you read about it, all these terrible things happened to their firstborn die.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want you guys to fact check me because I'm not 100% on up with this. But yeah, God's put those limits on us, like to protect us, to keep us safe.
Yep.
And so I think if you remember that, then it's so much easier because we don't know the whole story. We don't know how our actions are going to have consequences all the time. Like obviously, if I crash my car, like I'm speeding, I'm probably going to crash. Right? That's an obvious consequence. But if I like go and spread rumors about someone, I'm like, oh, I don't like it, just to like screw you over. You don't know how that's going to end.
Yeah.
And God does. And it's just so much easier and like safer to just play by his rules because he's the creator of everything. Like he knows what's good. So yeah, you don't need to know like the whole story. You just need to know, oh, these are the rules I'm going to play by. And you'll probably be pretty.
It's kind of like when we're kids and parents tell you, don't do this. You go, why?
And then you find out how hard you.
Yeah, and then we go do it. And yeah.
Man, my dad told me don't run on the gravel. I was running on the gravel. I scraped up half my face, man. In pre-primary, it was like blood everywhere. And I was traumatized. I was in shock. I was like, my lolly snake. I draw my... Sir. I don't care about my face, mate. I don't think the adrenaline, man, I must have been like fully pumped through with it because like I was just so devastated about my lolly snake. And now I look in the mirror, I'm like, but yeah, God's literally that parent. He's telling us like what we should do and what we shouldn't do. It's like, yeah, we should listen to it.
Absolutely. A kind of final exploration question for all the people out there who want to keep their lolly saying, is on the whole evangelism thing. So we've got fairly, as Christians, we say yes to the way of Jesus and to following after him, and it's, for lack of a better word, it places more limitations on us as people, but good ones, and because he's the perfect person, he lived exactly how God wanted him to live, and he was completely fulfilled. And the idea is that as we follow after him, we realize the same thing, that God's way is the best way. But how do you find talking to people about God and telling them Jesus is the best option for you? Would you like to give your life to? When it flies in the face of really the current cultural thought of, unlimited freedom, guys. You can be whatever you want to be, do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it. How do you find that? Because you got to tell them, like, it's take up your cross. Yeah. For some of you need to stop getting drunk. Sleeping with everyone around you, including rocks, like, stop. No, so how do you go with sharing Jesus because that's the reality is that when somebody's asking you, should I follow Jesus? And you want them to follow Jesus. For me, I know that's one of the things that I'm going to come up against is like, so does that mean I can't do this, 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 and this? Isn't that what it means to be a Christian? I get the question. How do you go with that? Sorry about the rocks coming.
It's good. It's big. No, what it is. Yep.
Yeah, I think going back to culture of today, in that freedom, everyone's a freedom. And so I guess how you perceive that freedom in a way. Like for us, we perceive it with boundaries. But for other people, freedom is freedom. They can do whatever they want. Um, so when coming up to, I guess, a person that's has their sort of freedom and talking to them about God and Jesus, comes to that point where it's like, are you willing to give your life to Jesus with me to that? I feel like it's definitely always a question been asked anyone out there. I guess it sort of comes down to how they then take that question, or how they take your way of asking it, or because I mean, it's one thing to ask it, and to ask it's a big thing, a big step. Even if you're like walking around, talking to homeless people, being close to them, seeing their side of things, knowing how someone else is I guess lived, sort of changes the way how we might feel more empathetic to them, sympathetic to them. Um, but yeah, coming to that question of, would you be willing to? Can I help you get that? I like people how Nathan put it as, um, you gotta be like you gotta be with them consistently. You can't do it to a certain point and then stop, or you can't do so much and then stop. It's got to be a consistent patch. Um, and so I guess coming up to a person and saying, or talking to them on a one-off thing, and saying to know, are you willing to? Is it some very bold statement to make? I feel like for me it would be very difficult, just because, um, I mean, the Bible talks about how the young kids can do as much as the old people. Um, but still, for me in my head, I feel like, uh, there's so much that I'm not that I can't do, but I don't crave for in a way. Uh, so if I was to go up to people on the street and want to pray for them, it's not that I wouldn't want to. I've just feel like I myself am not ready for that. Going back to freedom with limitations and like stretching, well, like there's a certain amount of growing one would have to do to be able to take those steps into, you know, answering questions like that, or seeking out people capable that might help. Yeah, yeah. But it's very uh, deep thing to do for Sunday. I, yeah,
Scary as hell.
yeah.
Um, well, there's two ways that I think about it when we're talking about sharing your faith and giving them the trust that, like, yeah, all your freedom, impressive, free, like, with meditation, freedom. And I think was one way I've shared this story, and you know, it's just with the boys so many times, but I think as a person, you are, it's with a fair, but to at least get a story. Yeah, at least to get that possible. Yeah, well, uh, because like I'll share this with you before, though, like the story of the missionaries going into some remote village in like Asia or something, and basically missionaries going and just unibus, just like sharing with anyone that could hear it, like the yeah, whatever, and the rest. And the shadow with the chief of the college in there with it couple weeks and about this coming there say so so excited about them this new chapter of their life. And then chief goes up to the missionaries. Oh, where did this happen? Just yesterday. It's beautiful. She is set by music 2 years and knows yet something. And, the question that she posed was just kind of the sobering reminder as to the urgency. Do was so, yeah, that gets to stories. What takes what is. And I think kind of like in the way, I guess in our context of Perth, course in Australia, it's like it's easy to kind of like belt bob about it, don't care about Perth surgery, the because yeah, with us to see church and pursue this congregation for their refugees. Whereas it's like, what took you so is that the urgency to kind of share that we are to kind of share the next China's just this piece some that affects great like sharing that sport sees. But it's that all users are usually. So like the idea, I think that's a great quote, but I think you can use words, like actually talk to people, actually share lots with people. One of the other boys is probably a Canadian, but he's also bad because he parachutes spun it. Just talked about like you hesitated because he had this feeling and share his career abilities to a because well at least share does a lot like hesitating, but then you went on to share the on your head a little bit, and now there's an opening for us to kind of ask questions. Yes, and he's doing it by shooting that journal for a while, so he's always gonna meet years. And I think, yeah, it is scary, definitely. It's kind of like you don't know someone to kind of just like add a mental where it would just drive me to, I don't like speak to back, I guess, but God, I was like, the hell yeah. So we did spoil that night and astronauts like during but I can see now why he sounds like we've got to tell we've got to tell it. Like there's an urgency to share it boss. There's an urgency to kind of actually make sure that someone at least gets some idea. And I think as Christians, the scary part is like I could share it and then I don't know like keep it sure to save and then make sure I go to church and then make sure like whereas it's just not we just have to get shoes to count dot and the get paper. It's just big us. And I think for in the sense of context of like some from Frost and the Freedoms. I get this question quite a bit with students at work and I've had over the years. You probably had as well, so be so. Where is the constant they're always constantly like from trust of like, look, this sounds great, don't get me wrong. That's true. When I go in the parents go predicted background, don't see any care. Practically does this. So how can that work, but where's that how's that look? And I think for what the student said, I think it's true. Like you've got to be consistently be in that job with me. And I think that's what discipleship is. Like, it's not like a 7-year journey. It's like life. Look, you gotta be willing to kind of catch them when they're falling, when they stumble and they're crazy, and like your periods and silly. It's just being with and still talking about you still Jesus stuff. God still loves you. There is still that option. I know there's a lot of other freedoms and other options there in life. And I think that's what the big extension between I think we had to maybe how extension will bigger and up. She's just like this will not choose. This freedom will feel will not choose. Yeah. Like it's got all these items that you and for food fees and you nuts. Yeah. What's popular, what's trending of this trends. And I think for a while that's kind of in chaos and looking for identity, like that Judaism and what right give me something back steady. It's not safe. It's definitely not safe. It's not tell you how it is, but it's always gonna be the same. It's not start going else. Do anything else that it wouldn't already has. I think when you're sharing the gospel, I think it's not, it's scary because we don't want to get our feelings hurt or get rejected. But, well, I thought before, Jesus had light as well. Yeah. Yeah, my thing I always kind of think about is like when you're sharing the gospel, you keep it's like, so what's me that plus you? Yeah. If you do, yeah, it's already happened. It's underground churches.
I mean, that's not that sad.
But like, we're so privileged. Parent fun, but we don't get rid of that message. Pray better saying the evil washer before these. So did he charge us that? So wait, perfect. To kind of do this. And I think if to put it in our front is where we are in sharing the gospel, it's like we have a lot of folk with us, and a lot of leaders the whole. So use them to benefit. Use key go to us. Now use this part of it to give. Teach their say more, but it's just all this. Say just share the gospel. Just be on the Jones. You're doing like you're a uni or you're doing a friendship. You're working. Start the conversation. Sit with them. Start the conversation. Say, yeah. Because even though you're gonna be a back vacation for a long time, just stop conversation. Just drop a little pin here and then you see where it go. Like you don't have to do just provide them the opportunity to hear about it. Says I get shoots about the shoot. Why did it take you so mercy? Like that breaks me. Yeah. Why did it take you so long? It's like there are people who are walking past us at Carousel, Garrett Trail, train station, Carter Sherry's update. We think they know. They don't actually know. They have an idea. Although the Christian is, they know what it is like on the 27th and 25th, 27th, 25th of December. Oh my God. An idea who of this Jesus. But that's like what? Up in the air and now their day. And they ask, get on. It's like they don't actually know. But I think we're overestimating how much people know that thought. Fully overestimated. Yeah. It's just busy access to always doesn't mean they're actually typing it. Say think snip by this. I think simplify it wherever you're at, share it. If you know you're gonna be there for years, share it and just start that conversation. Let it follow you there, Drew. Yeah. And you can say it straight away, for you. That ties it there. Honestly, want to is amazing. But like that's a long term, it's a long term thing. Like Jesus, he's discipleship of those. And it's well, it's like 3 years or something. And it's like, and they kept on going. Some the others, and they kept on going. Like, yeah, it's a lifetime commitment. So I think gotta take the fear out of like having to fix everything in the moment. We just spark something. See what it does. Yeah, and I think the contrast is like the old world's version of freedom is way too up. Oh yeah, but basic freedom is like set. Yeah, so no, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. So like on the like sharing with other people about our faith and like trying to help them understand. I'll start with another analogy, or like analogies before I said Jesus was like a coffee bean. Now Jesus is like a shower.
Hey, let's go.
And like I know it sounds silly, but like saying Jesus is like a shower, like you don't clean yourself before you get in the shower, right? Like the shower leads you. I feel like that, even for us, like I find a lot of assurance in that. I've been a Christian so pretty much my whole life since I could like actually make that decision, right? And even for me, that brings so much like assurance, like the stuff I'll not just like keep missing the mark. I know I can just go to Jesus and like be like, all right, look, I'm stuffing up, I've messed up. Just help me like break through this, right? And a lot of people I talk to, they feel like, oh, I can't like start with Jesus. I can't get into this, like have these addictions, like these are my habits, like I'm living this life I've stuffed up so many times. I feel so far from God. There's no way. And like what I was saying about Saul before, he was literally killing Christians. He was like a Christian bounty hunter. He'd just go out and kill them. And Jesus was like, you know what? You're the guy that's going to help build my church. You are going to be one of the main guys in my story. And it's like, I'm like people I talk to, none of them have killed anyone yet, let alone like intentionally gone after. So like, how much have you messed up really?
Yeah.
Like there was a guy like not sitting, I don't know, hanging on the cross next to Jesus was a guy who had like messed up. He was a thief. He was like on the cross. He had nothing left of his life to give.
Yeah.
And Jesus still forgave him and still had that relationship with him. Like, man, what a lotto ticket. Hey, being I mean, like next to Jesus.
It's like, and it just play the game in the end of your lives. Hey, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you don't know how to start, just explain. Like, you can just tell them, like, look, I mess up too. Just maybe find some common ground in that because we're all human. We all do the wrong thing. We all scuff up all the time. And it doesn't mean you can't be a crystal. Like, you can, like, just start in the relationship with Jesus. Just like start asking questions, start getting involved. Maybe like going to church is your first move. I don't, yeah. But yeah, and in that relationship, you're going to find freedom because that's what he gives us. Out of the free, so you're going to find freedom from your addictions and the habits and all that stuff. And like, yeah, you're going to stuff up and like relapse. Like all these things might happen. You might go do the wrong thing, might go sleep with your ex. I don't know. Like we all do. Yeah. But it doesn't mean like, oh, now I've stuffed up. Oh, that's it. That's it. Curtains closed. No. Jesus offers forgiveness every day. So yeah.
He's not too small. Well, he's not small at all. Yeah, I like that. I like that, the shower analogies. It's pretty awesome. And I think people resonate with that and just getting a picture around the simplified, like you were saying, just simplify things. So, and that's a really realistic way to rate it. It's so cool. So that's exactly what it is. It's biblical, right? Isn't it? We've all sinned, and Jesus is the one who cleans us up because we can't clean ourselves. If we could, we wouldn't need God. Uh, yeah. So yes, one of the things that I think as well I underestimated in this is how much God does it with us, and um I don't know, for some people, I think they forget, and I had forgotten how much more God wants people to be saved than I do. Mm. Like I'm not the savior of the world, He is, and He literally showed it by actually dying the most horrible death ever. So I think He's good. He's good. He's got it. His intentions are clear, and I sometimes forget that He wants them to be saved more than I do, more than I ever will and ever will understand. And so I think I underestimated the power of prayer as well in going into this. Is the prayerfulness so that we can pay attention to where God is also pointing us to pay attention to, because we might try and come up with the most clever ways to do things. Uh, but I think something like a shower analogy, nothing, to come up with that, you need to have thought about, well, how do I share this with people? I think that that's one of the things that Holy Spirit helps us with, is that the shower analogy can't be for everybody, but it'll be for somebody. It's going to resonate with somebody who thinks, I'm just so far away from it. And it might just be what they need. And that's what Holy Spirit does, is He helps us to actually be able to look at that. And so I think one of the things that I've seen personally is in praying for those opportunities, I'm seeing more of them happen. And it might not be all the time, would you like to give your life to Jesus? It might actually be a question like one of my students randomly asks, so where do we come from? And I go, that is a brilliant question. Because that could lead to another question, to another question, to another question, or it could lead directly to a conversation that we're having about what makes us truly human. Um, And just small things like that, small little drops like that, that are ultimately still leading back to Jesus. Because it's in, you quoted Matthew 28, where Jesus says, "Go into all the world and make disciples." It's go and make disciples. Go and make disciples. So where are you going today? Make a disciple of Jesus. Where are you going tomorrow? Make a disciple of Jesus there. And that's not the complete thing. It's like, you are now a disciple in 2 hours or 30 seconds that I've been with you. It's a disciple is a follower of Jesus. And they set themselves up to grow Jesus. So, yeah.
Yeah. How would you then, like, for someone that has their own misunderstandings, like they full heartedly believe in things that they know, but they're sort of misunderstanding the focus of, I guess, what God is wanting to do. I Like, if that makes sense. How do you sort of
Expand that a bit, huh?
how do you sort of communicate with someone that struggles to, I guess, like they have their own ideas, their own thoughts about what some of the Bible uh, talks about or some of the stuff means, but it's sort of just off the mark.
Yeah.
Like people, like older people that sort of have their own ways of doing stuff, their own sort of outcomes, or young people that sort of, I guess, think they know more than they do. How do you sort of communicate with those type?
So you're talking about people who already have an idea of, I think this is what you're saying, and they're not quite right about what you're
Yeah.
trying to communicate with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because we all have that. We all have biases and things that, even looking at the Bible, I think you mentioned the Bible specifically. That's why we have, 33,000 plus denominations across the world in Christianity. And
Is there a right denomination?
I think so. I think that yeah, you're asking a big question, but the this thing. So with regards to evangelism, all we want to do is we want people to connect to Jesus, to say yes to Jesus. He actually, I think someone said it. He'll work it out. He'll work out the rest. You said that, right? He'll work out the rest. Get yourself into a church, because it doesn't actually matter if you're in a Catholic church or whether or not you're in a Lutheran church or a Baptist church. If you've connected with Jesus, he'll take care of it. He's actually not a bad, like God is not a bad parent who's just going to be like, he's not a bad parent. We know what bad parents are like. And God literally died for us. Okay, that's something. Not a lot of parents would die for their kid. Some would. But when push comes to shove, sometimes it's like the selfish Jesus. Just to get them connected. But with regards to the Bible, part of what I'm thinking at the moment, with regards to the Bible and how we do things, whether people are saved or unsaved, and they think they know what they know, is that a lot of the denominational splits actually happened because people were like, I don't like the way you interpret the Bible. I'm going to start my own thing again. What we lost was actually, and it's only 500. It's only been 500 years of that. Okay, so before that, there's 1,500 years, 1,500 years of fairly consistent biblical interpretation and biblical teaching that happened in the church. Granted, it went astray in some bits, but on the major things, it actually has stayed the same for 1,500 years. And um, and so we probably do people a disservice by trying to give our opinion about the Bible rather than take them to the Bible and say, here's what it says. And they go, oh, well, how do I understand that? And you go, and you go, well, I'm sure the Bible has talked about this somewhere else. You go, so that's a bit more technical thing to do with how do we interpret the Bible. It has a history behind it, and the main crux of it is that for a majority of the time, people have actually taught that to interpret the Bible, you use the Bible. How do we know? So Jesus all the time, he said to the Pharisees, you read the scriptures. You've got no idea they're actually talking about me. So in that, he's pretty much saying, if you read the Old Testament, something is going to point to Jesus. If you read the story of Job, for example, that's going to point to Jesus. Well, what's the story of Job? He's righteous, he's innocent, but the worst things that you could imagine to somebody who is rich. And God said about Job, yep, I'm okay with you. But then he also says to the devil, yeah, okay, go and take some things, ruin his life, etc., etc. And by the end of the book of Job, you still don't have an answer. God doesn't actually say to Job, to give Job the reason why he allows everything that happened to him to happen to him. At the cross, when Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me? We don't have an explanation, but we understand from Isaiah 53, this is why it happened. We understand from Cain and Abel's story that Abel, who was innocent as well in there, that he's pointing to Jesus. We understand that as soon as God is pronouncing the curse on the woman, he's also threading a needle and he's saying, there is hope for you. It's not going to end in death. I'm making a way. And it's going to lead to just, we understand that when David is anointed king, and he ends up killing Goliath, we understand that that's actually supposed to be a picture of Jesus killing our greatest enemy. It's not about us. So small things like that. So we interpret the Bible using the Bible. And for us as Christians, we got to do our due diligence to actually go, well, how do I then learn how to agree with how the Bible talks about itself, and especially how the Bible talks about Jesus and presents Jesus? Otherwise, we got opinions. Everybody's got an opinion. They're like armpits. We all got one. They all stink. Not mine. It's just a quick armpit check. But that's where I go. But the primary thing is literally introduce them to Jesus, and you just go, what did Jesus is? Make disciples. Well, how do you know that you're a disciple? It's all in there. Teaching them to obey everything that I command you. The disciple of Jesus trusts Jesus enough to do what Jesus asks of them. And if they don't, you ask for forgiveness, you tried it. Because you don't clean yourself, Jesus cleanses you. The moment you try and clean yourself, you've lost sight of Jesus. Simple as that. Doesn't matter whether any of you walk with Jesus 2 minutes or 52 years. It's insane, but it's it. I'll leave it to that. Time's gone. Thanks for joining the podcast and sharing your thoughts, and I hope